Hello, I'm Michelle. I'm a spiritual life coach. I am out of Loveland, Colorado for the moment. And what I do is that I help people release negative emotions through the Akashic records that were created or trapped during a traumatic event in their childhood or beyond. Hi, Mike. Let everyone know what you do and where you're at today.
Hi, Michelle. I am Mike Watts. I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I am an energy worker. Been doing it for 15 years, and I use multiple modalities. I was taught from a student of Barbara Brennan's, and then came an Usui Reiki master, and then I went to a shamanic school in the Carol Peruvian tradition down at Sacred Ways for 2.5 years, and I integrate all those and plus some other things that I've picked up here and there for energy work.
Awesome. Well, welcome. This is your first time with us. So just a little bit, we're just going to ask some questions. We're both going to have a chance to answer them and how we do things this way. We can go ahead and start out because I know this is one that you wanted to talk about is how do you work with others in the 3D world when you could be more in the 5D world?
I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and
Did you hear the question, Mike?
No, I didn't.
So the question was, how do you work with others in the 3D world versus the 5D world?
With patience. You have to realize that everybody's on a different level and a different lesson to learn. And you have to pick and choose your words, and then try, it's not easy to do, but try to not take any reactions personally and realize that it's their lesson. There are many paths to get to the same area that we're all going to. It's just they may be choosing a different path to get there.
I would totally agree with that, there, because sometimes, that's sometimes the hardest thing about being an energy worker, a healer, a psychic, is to that realization that everyone is on their own path. And when we get to that point, then we know that we can actually help them versus like allowing them, like telling them what to do. We can actually show them like how to open themselves up so they can do the healing if we're already aware that they're already on their own path. Okay, so why did you get into self-healing?
Just made sense to me. I've had, throughout my life, I've had spiritual things happen to me and kind of woo-woo stuff. And I don't know, phenomena that would happen that just couldn't be explained. And as I was programmed to turn it off, things kind of seemed to get worse. And I finally, it's within me to be a healer. I finally accepted it and started moving forward with that. And as I did, I became happier. I take things much in better stride than I used to. I don't get all upset and give away my power like I used to. And going on a healing path as I work with people, they may be receiving energy that I'm able to channel for them, but I'm also channeling energy for me. So in a way, it's kind of selfish. As I give, I'm receiving. And I like that. It's like a natural high to me. It's just makes me feel much better, and it helps me feel and realize that I'm where I'm supposed to be, in that place of peace, fulfilling my purpose.
Cool. No, I would totally agree that, when we are on our path, I know even for me that as a child, I saw my first disembodied spirit when I was about 5, when I was at a funeral for my great grandmother. And my mother's like, oh, it's okay. And I'm like thinking, no, I'm confused. Her body's there, but her soul's over there. What's going on? And I knew if I asked, that would not be okay. So I was like going, just kind of like observing and watching. And I think that's also from my childhood too, because I stuttered so bad as a kid that all I had for cues and social cues growing up were other people's behaviors. And so that's how I knew what I needed to do, what I needed to say, how I needed to act. And so I watch other people all the time, and how they behave, how they hold themselves says a lot to me. And I learned all that from my childhood early on. And so becoming that healer was, just like you said, that's what I was supposed to be doing here. And as soon as I did, life started to flow, energy started to flow a lot better. I started to enjoy myself, which is what we're all here for anyways, right? Yep. Shouldn't be taking life too seriously. So how do you work through your own stuff?
I do meditations. I do prayers and affirmations. For me, they're what work. They work for me. And I go to a spiritual meetup group and share, and able to release and share experiences and understand and be with like-minded people. That's helped out tremendously. Intent. I found that intent, heartfelt intent, is a big thing. If you really don't have the intent, and you don't have your heart involved with it, the manifestation is more difficult, takes longer. So the more intent and the more heartfelt intent you have, the quicker and easier and synchronistic that manifestation is going to be for whatever you're trying to manifest. And I keep at it. There's days that I feel like nothing's happening, but I've realized that it's just a lull. It's giving me a time to rest for some reason, rest either spiritually or within physically or mentally. And then there's other times as I keep it, you got to keep going. You got to keep doing it. Even if you feel like nothing's happening, you still have to keep moving forward. And you start realizing things, synchronicities will start happening. And be patient. Have intent and yet no expectations, because things will happen the way they're supposed to. And that's what I do, and I've learned, and I'm being more consistent with it than I have been for a long time.
Awesome. So I know for me, working through my own stuff, if I'm having that intense emotional day or moment, that is not the time to work through it. I just give myself that love that is needed. And then once I get through the emotional part, then I can start looking at what got me there, why was I there, what emotions I felt. So that way I can go into the Akashic Records and start working through that myself when I'm not so emotionally about everything. So I can see things a little bit differently and a little bit clearer. And for me, that seems to really help till just when I'm in that emotional moment, being an empath, like, nope, we're just going to let this sit and, ask the universe to clear everything that is not mine. So that way, if I'm still feeling that way, okay, it's got to be mine. And I'll work through it tomorrow when I'm not as emotional. Um, do you ever hold back when you feel something is not working?
I do. That's a constant battle, I could say. Having that trust in something that doesn't seem to make any sense at the time. And the more I get out of my head and try to understand the unforeseen, the spiritual side, the more I get out of my head and just allow, the more results I seem to see and feel, and more synchronicities seem to happen.
Cool. I know for me, we had talked about earlier is that, you know, when you're working, when you choose to work with somebody else, what are some of those reasons why you choose to work with them? And for me, it's more, I always like when I meet somebody, I feel out their energy, and I may feel out their energy for maybe 2, 3, 4 months before I decide to say yes or no. And sometimes, it's like, and I'm still working through the, energy to see if it's right for me or not. But I am really particular on who I allow to work with me. And I know even my guides are very particular on who I allow to work on me. So that's also really interesting that if I choose like, is this person, like there might be an energy vibe or something, my guides would be like, nope, move on. And I'd be like, okay, don't question it, just move on. I know one of the things you were really wanting to talk about is like the 3D versus the 5D world. So what do you have to say about all of that?
No matter what your belief is, basically everything, there's truth and distortion in all cultures, all religions, all information. And that's part of the 3D. We all have one leg in 3D, one leg in 5D, especially energy workers, healers, and people who are not aware of that yet. They do too. They're just not aware of it because they're still kind of trapped or still focusing on 3D. We're all multidimensional beings and energy and consciousness. So it's possible that we may be focusing in 3D, but we're also working in fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh in another dimension, in another parallel universe. The 3D is more physical. The 5D is more openness and higher thinking and more peaceful with yourself and with others, more respect for yourself and others. And the trick is finding that balance to walk between the two until the final shift happens. Mm-hmm. And for some, the final shift will happen. For others, they may not be ready. It may not be their path. It's kind of like graduating, going to school and having these different classes, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. Yet the 3rd and 5th dimension, we're in them simultaneously. Some are more aware of it than others. Some are not aware of it. Mm-hmm. What you see going around in the world, a lot of people are not aware of it. But there's more and more people becoming aware. People are waking up and questioning what's happening in 3D, in the world of politics and what's going on around. And they're questioning it because that 5th dimensional energy is working on us, on our subconscious and on our spiritual, electromagnetic, vibrational being, our energetic matrix. And it's forcing us to look deeper into our 3rd dimension, into the 3D, and look at our shadows, all the things that we haven't healed, all that garbage we've been holding on and haven't processed from this life and past lives. Um, and it's shaking us. It's making us see that. And the more we resist that, the crazier and more chaotic we're going to act. And if you can see around, there's a lot of crazy, stupid stuff going on. It's going to, if you resist it, that's what's going to happen to you. You'll be more forgetful. You'll be seeing things that you don't even realize you're seeing, and doing things you don't even realize you're doing. So if you have more of that fifth dimension, have that awareness of fifth dimension, that there's more to the physical body, more to the physical world than just being physical, that we're actually spiritual beings having a physical experience, you will start being able to manifest things a lot better. If you think of everything as where everything is consciousness and energy and spirit, the world's going to be much, much better. You're going to be able to handle things better. And that's the difference. 3D is physical. Not everything has to be black and white and touch. The fifth dimensional energy is a higher energy, and it's an energy of spirit, of consciousness. Less of the physical body and more of the spirit and energy. That's how I see it. And
Okay.
the trick is balancing the two.
So what I've kind of realized too is that the more and more I moved into the fifth dimension, the more and more I was able to recognize what the 3D was all about, and then what the 4D is all about. And that way I was able to help my clients a little bit more move through the 3 and 4D to get them into the 5D, at least part-time, as they work on doing their own shadow work, because that is really a very important process of moving from the 3D to the 5D, is that shadow work. Because when we don't do it, all we're doing is spiritual bypass. We're not actually healing anything. We're just trying to cover it up, put that little Band-Aid on it and go, oh, I'm going to be happy. It's all better now. Versus working through all that shadow work and being done with it for your next few lifetimes. So yeah, I totally agree that the 5D is this world of consciousness. So I was watching a show earlier today, and they said that what the world is going through right now, especially America, it's almost compared to like a near-death experience. So when you have that near-death experience, you have that consciousness awakening within, to knowing, wait a minute, I'm not the only thing here. I'm not the only thing that matters. There's more to this world than just me. And it's almost like this is where we're at within the world as we're moving from the 3D to the 5D, is that we're all having that near-death experience to wake us up. And I thought that was really interesting. And then I read somewhere else today that what the government is trying to do with all these lovely programs is to give us a sense of consciousness and oneness. And I was like, if we all just remember who we are, we already have that. We don't need to be given it or to be programmed to have it in a different way. We already naturally have that. Do you have any follow-up on that in there?
No, I agree with everything you're saying. There's two types of people, basically: service to self or service to others. And you have synthetic, man-made created, or creator, great spirit, God, universe created, which is organic. And that's what we're facing. And those, to me, that's the recognizing and realizing what 3D is and what 5D is. Those are the differences. Service to self, service to others, synthetic, man-made, or organic, creator, God-made. Universal law.
Yeah, So I tell some of my clients that, Madonna said it best for the 3D world when she says, I'm a material girl living in a material world. And I'm like, oh, yep, that is so 3D, isn't it?
Yep.
It's all about self.
That's true.
And as we release ourselves and realize that we need to be of service to others, that we actually get more in return when that happens, which is also the great thing. And then we get to increase everything also in ways to be able to multiply and help more people. Because when we are helping one person, they may go help 2 people, and then they may go help, 3 people. And this is how we start to change the consciousness on a spiritual level versus the mental level.
I agree. It's like the 100th monkey.
What was that?
It's like the 100th monkey phenomenon.
Yes.
It catches on.
I mean, I think we've all heard of that theory. If you get to 100, it changes the consciousness. And then you get to 200, and every 100 you get, it changes the consciousness even more.
Yeah, I feel like that's good.
So do you have anything else you want to talk about, like with the 5D versus 3 and 4D?
4D, as I understand it, is more the astral level. And that's connected to your heart chakra. And that's typically where 4D entities, energies, thoughts, consciousness enter your energy system, is through your heart, the 4th level. Mm-hmm. And that's also where there's a duality. You can have service to self or service to other entities, spirits, and consciousness. So you have to be protected. The 4th level is kind of like introducing you to, there's something more than 3rd dimension, more than physical, and you're kind of getting your feet wet. You can step in hot water or cold water. And then 5th dimension is where, okay, you've worked out some of those bugs, you have a better understanding, and hopefully you're going to be more service to others going into the 5th dimension, into 5D, where you're going to be more accepting of yourself and others and more respectful, kind of working out those bugs.
So have you noticed a difference in how people treat you when you feel like you're in 3D versus a 5D energy?
Oh yeah, most definitely. When I'm in a 5D mode or energy, people are less aggressive, they're less threatened, and they'll actually be more neutral. And even if they are that and you stay in 5D, it's like you neutralize some of their aggressiveness. You're able to not get caught up in their drama.
Yeah, I totally would agree that when I'm like in 3D and I can catch myself in 3D, it's like when I notice that I'm getting caught up in the drama. And then when I'm in 5D, a lot of times, because here in Colorado, masks are like supposed to happen everywhere, even when you're outside by yourself. And I don't wear one. And I still go shopping. I go into stores. I know which ones, are not going to say anything. But yet some of the ones that are kind of iffy still don't say anything to me. I just walk on in, do my shopping, get done, and leave. It's almost like they're so stuck in 3D, they can't see me in 5D. And so I'll go in, start doing my shopping, and just leave. And nobody ever says anything to me. I think this whole entire year, I think I've had something said to me twice. And both times I was with somebody else. Hmm. Other than that, no.
Yeah. I've experienced that too.
I'm like, and it's kind of fun to be in 5D when some other people are in 3D where they can't see you very much, but it's also can be a lonely place if the people you're around are not there either.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I'm like, so having those spiritual groups like you go see and work with to be around those like-minded people is always helpful. Because then it gets you a sense like, oh, I can be like myself. I don't need to try to be a 3D person or a 4D person just to kind of get along. I get to just be in 5D and just enjoy everyone else's energy as we're all giving. And then as everyone else is giving, when you're in those groups, you're also receiving, because that opens up those channels.
Correct. And something else that's good too when I'm in those groups, we have those group meetings, is you realize that things that you're feeling and are happening to you are happening to others. You're able to share that and see that unity there. As you go, I believe, as you go further up in dimensions and consciousness, you start becoming more unified. There's more of a unity because it's service to others, and yet you're not losing your identity. You're still have your personal who you are, your personal identity, yet you're becoming more unified and more closer together with others, which is actually in a sense yourself, because essentially we're all going to merge back into creator,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. So,
But yeah. So what did you think of the concept of America right now having like a near-death experience as we go through these changes?
oh yeah, most definitely. I've read articles like that too. I think it's 107.
And that's who I actually heard it from today.
Yep. I've read that too, and you could also say it's the long night of the dark soul.
Mm-hmm.
We're facing our own shadows.
Right.
As a nation, we're being forced into it, whether we want to see it, accept it, or not.
And it's been happening for the last 12 months.
Oh yeah.
In a majorly big way. And I was like going, you guys don't realize that you're being forced to see your own shadows. And so it was interesting because I was at an event about a month ago, and this lady comes up and goes, so how much for a 3-card reading? And I go, I don't do tarot. And so she's like, what do you do? I go, Akashic Records. And she's like, oh, that's like shadow work. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, oh, no, thank you. And she walked away, and I was like, got it. She's so not ready. But yet, what's going on in this world today is that if we're not taking a look at our stuff, we're forcing other people to do what we do because we don't want to be different and we don't want to take a look at ourselves. So therefore, we have to force everyone else to do things our way and our way of thinking versus just allowing everyone to be.
Right. When something I've noticed too, especially now over the last year, those people who project the most are the ones who are resisting their own shadow work. They're projecting it on others.
And I know this from my childhood and everything else and my teen years, and that the one who screams the loudest is probably the one doing it.
Yes.
And people, I'm like, they know this, but yet they're not realizing that this is what's going on.
True.
Because the dark night of the soul, we've definitely been going through it this last year. And the ones who have worked through it or understand what's going on the emotional and the shadow work side of it are the ones who are okay with, okay, you do you and I'm going to do me. And the ones who haven't are the ones who are not okay with it. So it's just been really interesting to see the dualities of this world today as we even go shopping, going through, seeing people with 2 masks on. And then there's a coffee shop out here that their employees don't even wear masks. And so to go there and see, like, nobody's in a mask, tables are not 6 feet apart, you can see 8 people at a table and nobody cares. And so it's just really interesting just to see the dualities of these two worlds being played out within just miles apart of each other also.
Yep.
So I know in Cheyenne, it's a little different up there. But how is the energy overall with the dualities of the two worlds going?
It's there, but it's that's a hard question how to answer that. There's that duality, but people pretty much stay to themselves. They don't speak out. I think there's more and more people realizing the falseness and a lot of the propaganda that we've been fed.
Mm-hmm.
And they are. I've had a few people look at me strange, not so much now since the beginning of the year, but because I won't wear a mask either when I'm out and about. There's some places I can't get away with it, but I'm not there very long, or I don't go at all. And I think people are realizing that it's more of a choice,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's no sense in speaking out, especially because I think people are not sure about it anymore.
Right.
There's a lot of doubt.
There is.
And that's part of the awakening, is realizing, hey, something's not right.
And then acting on it is the next part of the awakening.
Yes.
Which has been one that's been not realizing here in Colorado yet. I have some friends who are really like, okay, we know this is BS, but yet they wear one anyways. And I'm like, well, if you know this is BS, why are you wearing one? Well, I have to for my job, or I have to for this, or I have to for this. And I'm like, okay, it's for your job. Kind of get it, because you got to pay the bills. We do live in this 3D world at times too. I'm like, but no, when you're not, why do you wear one when you go into a restaurant? Why do you wear one when you go to the store? Why, all these different times. And they're like going, oh, because everyone else is. I go, but then you're sitting there complaining about the two different worlds and having to be in both. I'm like, it's one of those things that pick your world and make your choice.
Yeah, people don't realize how strong we are if we just stand up. We don't have to make a big scene or big actions, but just doing something like that, by not wearing a mask, or if somebody or some company is doing something that you don't like, don't go to them, cut them off.
Mm-hmm.
Like Amazon, I refuse to buy anything from Amazon. And if there's a place that's been putting influencing bad policies, I drop them. Facebook's hard to do, but I've got other alternatives, and we'll go to them if things happen. But
Right.
I think still, there's a middle line. It's kind of walking in between 3 and 5D. You still gotta get the information out, I believe.
Yeah.
And speak your truth, because as you speak your truth, you'll eventually someone's going to recognize it, and you're going to encourage them to speak their truth.
Right.
And it's not necessarily going to be very aligned with yours, but there's a commonality. There's a core to all truths, all religions, everything, to language. Bless you.
Thank you.
There's a core to it all. And once you realize that, okay, I can say something one way, you can say something different. You say it in another way, but once you're in that fifth D, you're getting out of that 5D, you start looking at the core, what the actual core of that meaning, that message is, or that action. You find out, oh, it's the same thing. It's just a little different expression.
Mm-hmm.
Same. It's a little different turn in that same path we're going. And that's part of coming into 5D is realizing, hey, we're saying the same thing. We may not be saying it alike, but the outcome, the concept is the same.
Right. No, I totally get that, because when my daughter was little, when we would tell her no, not right now, she would go back and rethink her question until she could get a yes.
Yeah.
Over and over again, she would come up with like 3 to 4 different questions until we were like, okay, here's the deal.
Yeah, that's the other thing with working in 3D is something I found. I'm still trying to work. I'm still working on it, but when you're talking with someone that doesn't seem to get your concept or understand what you're saying or thinks you're talking woo woo, ask questions instead of making statements. Say, well, what about this? Or what do you think of this? Or what if this happened? It kind of makes them, they're not taking offense and not feeling threatened. And you're helping them to think, maybe see in a different angle, a different light.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because people are only going to hear where they're at. And so maybe to get them to understand something else, it's not a matter of saying it differently. It's a matter of asking those different questions for them to start thinking about it differently. Because then they can open up to it if they're the ones doing it versus you just dictating to them going, hey, this is what you're doing. This is what it is. When you go, hey, so this kind of behavior that you're doing, what are you getting from it? Is it serving your purpose?
Right. When I do energetic sessions, that's what I do too. I don't want to know everything about the person I'm working on because that's their stuff. I just want to know enough that I can ask them questions or give them a little bit of descriptions to make them ask those questions and do the work. Because in healing work, there's a misnomer with healers. Healers don't heal anyone. All we do is help you connect to heal yourself. And that's the difference between 3D and 5D. That's another parallel or I can't think of the word right now. But anyway, just giving them enough information to help them become active, make them think maybe in a different light that they hadn't before, because healing, energy work, going from 3D to 5D is not passive. It's just not going to happen to you. You got to have an effort. You've got to want to. So that's part of inspiring, encouraging people to take that step, baby step, big step, that leap, whatever.
Yeah, depending on their personality, whether it's going to be a leap or a baby step.
Yeah.
For me, it's always been that leap. Like, oh, I'm just going to dive in and, oh, wow, there's all that stuff. Great. I know some people that just do their little toes in a little bit at a time. So, yeah, it just really depends on our personality, too, on how fast. But yet, the faster we go also, the more the stuff is going to build and come to the surface. And you're going to have a lot more stuff to work through.
Correct.
Than if you just took little steps at a time to work through it.
Yeah, there's been times, there are appropriate times when you walk, you jog, you run, and then you rest. Same thing with the awakening and spiritualness and doing energy work. You have all those different times, all those different seasons. And as you become more conscious and more rising in energy, you start realizing that, and you start listening more, and not putting so much wear and tear on your own body or your own emotions or your own mentalness.
Right. Because if you know you're a leaper, and if you're not told that, hey, if you leap, all this stuff is going to come to the surface all at one time, you may not be able to handle it.
Yeah.
And then you can get frustrated, irritated, and then stop the process. On the other hand, if you're, one that puts your toes in, and if you're not putting your feet in enough, you might not see the results you want to see quick enough, where you would stop the process and give up because you feel like nothing's happening. So yeah, you're right. There is that time where you have to walk, run, jog, leap, jump, depending on who you are, what you're prepared for, and who your team is behind you to support you while you're going through this. And I think as healers, we really know what that's like, to have that healing team behind us to help support us as we go through this, because we know that, hey, they've been through this already. And therefore, if I need help, I can ask them questions or go, hey, this is what's going on. How do I work through this? Because healing is all about, healers are all about putting the power back onto you. And I know, like, when I get some clients and that stuff, they get really excited to see me week in, week in, and week out, but yet they're not doing anything to change their life. It's like, whoa, wait a minute here. You're not doing anything. I'm giving you the power, but yet you're not doing anything.
Yep.
So do you have anything else you want to talk about between the two worlds?
Can't really think of anything other than, just be patient with yourself, be consistent, use what works for you. For me, it's meditation, which I could do more of. And as far as meditation, it can be 5 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer and affirmations, and stick with them. Don't just say them one day and then the next day, oh, I'm too tired, I'm not going to do it. Do it, because the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the more synchronicities start happening, and the more you start seeing and feeling things. And I say this from my own experience and the experience of others like-minded, in spiritual groups. And don't have expectation. Set it out, set your intent, your prayer out there without an expectation of it's going to happen this way, it's going to happen with this person.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, in my experiences, it usually doesn't work out that way. And some of the biggest blessings I've ever had, I had no idea. I never thought of that happening the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
So be flexible.
Yeah,
Especially flexible.
You don't need to know how it's happening. You just need to know that it is.
Yeah.
The universe will take care of the how.
Yep. And as you can allow, and that's a big question, allow, because I'm very analytical, especially in my job. That's a big lesson for me. And the more I learn to allow, the more that actually happens. And it's subtle. It's not always going to be this great big thing in your face, kick you in the rear. It's going to be subtle. And as you keep working towards using those methods, whatever method works for you, you're going to become more sensitive to that subtleness, and you're going to start experiencing and seeing more and receiving more.
All right, Mike. So how can they find you?
I'm in Cheyenne. I have an old Facebook page. The best way to get a hold of me is email me at mikerwatts@msn.com, or you can leave a number, call me at 307-369-4677. And I will be doing the Casper Fair the end of March and the Cheyenne Fair. I think it's the first weekend in April.
Is it the second weekend?
It might be first or second.
I think it's the 10th and 11th, right?
Yes, it is. It is.
It's the second.
Okay.
Awesome. So I'll put my stuff here in the link since this is on my YouTube channel. And I'll be at the Nebraska Fair here next weekend. And then the Casper at the end of the month. Cheyenne in April. And then I'm going to head out to North Dakota at the end of April. So you guys can look for me in all different spots around the northern part. So thank you for joining us today.